Here now is Solutionaries.
Hey everybody, I'm Louis Bold, and in Florida, you cannot get far without a car. Whether you're going to work or the grocery store, driving may be your only option. The EPA says transportation is the leading source of air pollution and creator of carbon pollution in the U.S. Now a new study suggests putting more electric vehicles on the road could save thousands of lives over the next few decades. The American Lung Association says if gas vehicles were replaced by electric vehicles by 2035, over 89,000 fewer premature deaths would occur in the U.S. by 2050. But is America ready for an all-EV world? Our team in Jacksonville is looking into the challenges and the solutions.
There's no doubt that electric vehicles are slick, and they're not only seen as eco-friendly, they're fast.
Oh yeah, I can feel that.
And fun.
Now this isn't the top performance model, by the way, but that was 60.
Very smooth, the performance, there's really nothing bad about it, if I'm honest.
But are they practical? Can Americans really go without stopping at the gas station?
I'll share this. As an owner of a Tesla, when you're on US 17, going towards Green Cove Spring, there's a lack of chargers there.
Is there enough infrastructure to support these green efforts?
Houston, we have a problem.
And can drivers really save money in the long run? Or are these reserved for the wealthy?
Juicing up. Everybody can't afford to put that in their house, and this right here is inconvenience. I don't really know how long it takes. If you can fill up like getting gas, then okay. But if you got to sit here for a couple of hours, that's stupid.
We are finding out in an electric vehicle voyage.
Well, hey, congratulations, Vic, on the new car here.
We're at a Jacksonville dealership, Tom Bush. They've agreed to let us test drive an EV for a few days.
All right, so to start the car, you put your foot in the brake there. All right. And now to get it into drive, just twist it upwards.
Look at the wrist.
And you see how it lights up yellow?
Yeah.
So that's your drive mode there.
This is Volkswagen's ID.4. It's an SUV that starts around $41,000. It's one of more than 40 types of electric vehicles on the market in the U.S. right now, with just about every major car maker dipping into the market. Although there is a learning curve for those leaving the gas-powered world, it did not take long for us to be on the road for an emissions-free weekend. The range is said to be around 300 miles, and I wanted to test every mile of that.
Good to meet you.
Good to see you.
While we're out for this drive, let's connect with Bill Bortsfield.
Welcome to another episode of EV Rider.
He's a lifelong journalist who now blogs about EVs. He has 2 electric cars and a battery-powered motorcycle.
All right.
Today, he's taking us for a cruise in his Ford Mustang Mach-E.
And why? Why are you interested in electric?
Well, back when I was working at the Florida Times-Union, I was out doing a story on the Tesla Supercharger when it opened in St. Augustine. Mm-hmm. And they let me take a Model S P85 on the back roads. And I had driven things like, Porsches, Vipers, Ford GTs, but I never felt anything kick me in the pants like that Tesla. Yeah. And I couldn't afford to run out and buy a Model S, but I could afford to get a Zero motorcycle.
And then no turning back.
No turning back. We are pretty much an all EV family, although I have a second bike, which is gasoline, but our 2 cars and the motorcycle are electric.
Does that keep you grounded, or do you still get to travel?
Oh gosh, no. Well, let's see. Right now I've got 23,900 miles on this. Last week we got back from Deals Gap, North Carolina. We towed the Zero up with this car, and then we rode the Zero around North Carolina and Tennessee.
You're driving all these places?
All these places in the Mach-E. Yep.
What do you have to do to plan ahead? Is it different than just saying, oh, there's a gas station?
Well, it's actually really easy. All you do, you punch in your destination. So what I'll do, I'll usually go ahead and put in a trip in the app. So, for example, there is the trip we took to Deals Gap.
All right.
And what it'll do, it'll plot out the route, and it'll tell me it's going to add the chargers to the route. And I can either just trust it or I can go ahead and back check it. I personally prefer to back check it, but you can see it thinks I would have 2 charges that would take a total of 55 minutes for a trip of 388 miles.
So that's a glorified lunch stop.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we do.
Is there enough infrastructure across the U.S., no matter where you go, to take an electric vehicle?
I don't think so. You know, I mean, like when I was out in New Mexico and Kansas and things, I mean, I was very careful to plot what I did, but I'll give you an example where things aren't where they need to be yet. I was coming back on Route 66, and my original plan was to more or less take that down to Houston. But in the end, I actually detoured over to the interstate and through Oklahoma City, which added probably close to 100 miles because there were no DC fast chargers on the route that I would have naturally taken. Okay. You know, for example, if you were stuck here in Jacksonville, you'd be okay. In the city, you'd be okay. I mean, you know, especially me as a Ford owner, starting next year, I'll have full access to superchargers. So like up the street here is the Wawa, down the street is the Electrify America, you got EV Go. You know, if you're pretty much going up and down the Northeast corridor on I-95, you're not gonna have any problems. But when you go out into the rural areas, that's where it's more likely to get dicey.
Dicey is right. On my test drive, I learned the hard way that many EV chargers are level 1 or level 2, not superchargers. I thought I could still get a decent boost at many of these pay-per-use stopovers, but I was quickly disappointed. I now call them trickle chargers because they gave me only 4 to 5 miles per hour of charge, meaning a full battery could take days.
Says it'll be done Sunday. It's Friday.
And I don't think anyone's got time for that. That is where superchargers come in. But my first one was a bust. This charger in Jacksonville Beach showed up on the GPS, but when I got there, it was out of order, even rusting, leaving me to find another trickle charger and literally leaving my car overnight just to get enough miles for the next day. Which is why so many people have range anxiety. The White House says right now there's about 130,000 electric vehicle charging stations nationwide. The goal by 2030 is for 500,000. A bipartisan infrastructure law will help with that, earmarking $7.5 billion for a network of charging stations. Additionally, automakers are making big investments. They know they'll sell more electric vehicles if people have less range anxiety. Tesla has long had the most superchargers across the U.S., but other companies are catching up and sharing resources. Brian Bush is VP of several dealerships in Jacksonville which sell EV BMWs, Volkswagens, Mazdas, and Minis.
Is it sustainable? Is it safe to drive an EV across the U.S. nowadays? Is there enough infrastructure?
You know, it's getting better. The range is getting better. The prices are getting cheaper. So kind of the benchmark for EVs, I think, is around 300 miles and around 40 grand or less. And so a lot of the brands have achieved that. The tax credit has helped. And the infrastructure gets better every day.
What do we need to do with infrastructure to get to a place where everybody can drive it comfortably and never have to worry about not having a charger, not making it to their destination?
Right. You know, it's a group effort. I think you see the need for the infrastructure and the incentives are there. JEA has a local rebate for commercial businesses to install them. So it's a no-brainer. If you want your EV customers to spend more time in your facility, you want to put a charger in, and you'll get them to hopefully spend more money in your establishment.
How far away are we, Brian, do you think, from being totally self-sustaining electric vehicles all over?
That's a tough question. You know, the manufacturers, they're all preparing for it. A lot of them are going all EV. They're making declarations 2030, 2035. But we know it's going to be a transition.
And we saw that forward-looking in action at this autonomous vehicle summit. Self-driving cars, city buses, and motorcycles, all run by battery. Companies are investing big money, hoping it pays off. And while my test drive started off, let's just say, on a rocky road, it did get better.
Here we are. It's almost 2 a.m. But this appears to be one of the fastest chargers in our area.
I learned how to find fast chargers, which cost me about $14 per stop.
Can we get an alleluia? Because if you've been following along, the last one was 5 miles per hour. Yes, it gave you 5 miles of juice per hour. This one is 5 miles per minute.
EV blogger Bill Bortsfield found his rhythm years ago by installing chargers in his garage. They cost him a few $100s and a visit from the electrician, but he says they're well worth it.
So we have no trouble keeping all three charged.
And your electric bill's not crazy high?
You got to keep in mind how fuel efficient these things are. So for example, the Mini is rated at the equivalent of about 110 miles per gallon. The Zero is in the city rated at the equivalent of 435 miles per gallon. That drops in about half if you're on the interstate. And the Mach-E is rated at around 85. So, I mean, you got to keep in mind they're a lot more efficient in terms of energy units burned than gasoline.
So for now, the limitations are finding superchargers, higher prices than comparable combustible engines, and range for long-term trips. But the future for this quickly evolving technology is bright.
As Florida slowly grows its electric vehicle infrastructure, another form of transportation is gaining speed in the Sunshine State.
This new station will bring even more economic opportunities to downtown DeLand and the surrounding community.
Still ahead on Solutionaries, what it's like to commute via train in Central Florida. Welcome back to Solutionaries. You know, in Central Florida, rush hour can be a nightmare for drivers. Highways backed up as far as the eye can see. There's construction, tailgaters, and traffic lights. As more and more people move in, the roads become more congested and more dangerous. On Solutionaries, we spotlight the creative thinkers and doers who are making sure the world is a better place. And today, we're looking for an alternative to the gridlock that could be the key to Florida's transportation problems.
Hey there, I'm Eric Sandoval, and we're in Winter Park, Florida, which is just north of Orlando. You know, the Orlando metro area is really a commuter area. People travel 30, maybe even more miles to and from work every day. And for some of them, commuter rail is their solution to avoiding gridlock entirely.
Yep, I do this every day, Monday to Friday, morning and afternoon.
We're going to take you up the railroad and show you how some people are even calling these train stations home.
I always like to get away from where I was working, and just relax.
Northbound will be arriving in.
And if this isn't a solution for you, you'll see how things could be changing. But first, we're going to follow Jamel Hance to school.
Hey, morning, how you doing? Good. What you done, man? What you done?
I see him every morning. His name is Greg. He's a cool guy. He says everybody to hi to he gets everybody excited to ride Sunrail every morning. So.
Did you think, how am I going to go to the school? How am I going to get there?
Yeah, that was my first decision. Like, how am I going to get there if I don't have no car? And it's it's like a far route. I get on the train at 6:50 in the morning and arrive at 7:45.
So it sounds like Sunrail is really a solution for you.
Yeah, it sounds like Sunrail is a really solution for me because like the prices are really good and you don't have to drive a far commute to where you're going to your destination.
But here's the thing, Sunrail isn't solving everybody's problems. We met Jamel on our website, clickorlando.com, where we asked people, what are your feelings about Sunrail solving Central Florida's traffic issues? Well, people had a lot to say about that. Jeff said we need a leg to connect to the airport, while Robert said we need an east-west line to go to more suburbs. Jeff and Robert, we're going to show you how that could soon be changing. Lisa said we need to help people get to and from the train. She calls it that last mile. But for some riders, that isn't a problem, and I want to show you. Let's head up the tracks to Longwood.
For me, if I lived here and I was working down, I'd probably live here and work and go downtown. I don't know if I'd want to stay downtown.
Tom Kruger is Longwood's Director of Economic Development.
And now we're starting to see pockets of change.
And we met him outside one of the communities that have sprouted up right along the Sunrail tracks. How long ago did you break ground on this?
This was probably about 2014 type of, and then we finally opened up the doors around 16, 17, that time frame.
So what has happened since then?
Oh, quite a bit.
Get this, he says since Sunrail roared into Longwood 10 years ago, 2,000 apartments, 150 townhomes, and more than 200 single-family homes have been built in this small community. And that's boosted the average income more than their economic projections.
The station is right here.
And that means more demand for retail.
As you're going to see more restaurants, you're going to see availability, being able to have some choices of where to eat. So we're excited about it.
That's
and
fantastic.
it really started with this being put in place.
Who would have ever thought?
I didn't.
Little communities are popping up along the tracks.
Right, transit-oriented development
Is that what they call it?
booming. Yes, transit-oriented development is booming along the Sunrail corridor. In downtown Orlando, we're seeing a lot of excitement about a new project that's coming called The Edge. It's right at the Church Street station. It'll be 32 stories of office space, residential, and a hotel. It's right there at the station, so that's going to be really exciting. In DeBerry, a recent project has been announced called Main Street. That's going to be on 19.5 acres right next to the station, and it's also going to be a huge complex with about 800 residential units, including apartments and townhouses. And in addition to that, there will be some retail and some office space.
With that, do you see ridership going up?
Ridership is definitely going up.
Yeah.
We definitely see ridership going up. Our numbers have still not gotten back to where they were pre-COVID, but we definitely have some very strong growth and evolution in our ridership over the past couple of years.
COVID isn't the only thing keeping people away from Sunrail, though. Remember we talked about expansion earlier? Well, right behind me, community leaders are about to break ground on a new northern expansion to this railway.
And this new station will bring even more economic opportunities to downtown DeLand and the surrounding communities.
2, 1, woo!
And there are plans to expand east and west over the next few years to Orlando International Airport and possibly to join with another rail system to take people all the way to Tampa. They call that the Sunshine Corridor.
This is the Winter Park Station.
As for getting people to their destination after they get off the train, Jamel depends on the local bus system. So we just traveled from Kissimmee to downtown Winter Park. It was about 30, 40 minutes. Yeah. You're not done with your travels yet though, right?
Yeah, not done yet.
What's next for you?
Next is to get onto Linksbus at 8:15.
Right there.
Yeah, that's the number 9. The number 1 is the one that comes at 8:15.
Okay. So for 4,000 commuters a day, Sunrail's a solution to avoiding gridlock. And while it may not get you everywhere, it's growing, and it's also creating new communities for people to live and to stop and explore. It sounds like you're trying to make Longwood a destination rather than a departure point.
Oh, we'd love that. Wouldn't everybody? Yeah, we would love to have that.
Solutionaries is just getting started. We already covered safe driving, avoiding online predators, and policing in America. Why don't officers police each other?
I agree with that 150% because here's one thing that I've been saying for a long time. You know, whenever you see an incident occur, we focus back on the training, and we can train all day long, but there's a couple things. It doesn't matter how much we train. You cannot teach common sense, and you cannot teach empathy.
A dangerous amoeba lurking in lakes and ponds.
Time stopped. The next words were, I want you to say your goodbyes, because we're gonna put him in a coma, and we don't know if he's gonna wake up.
And more.
There was a lot of predators in the area. The dogs were scared. So the dogs were buried under a lot of thicket in a heavily wooded area. If it wasn't for the drone finding their thermal signature, the ground team of 12 individuals probably would have never found those pets.
To learn more about the problems we are all facing as a community and what's being done to get results, just download the new 6 Plus app, scroll down to Solution Areas, and start watching.